Ooh, everyone's getting quiet. Okay. All right. We will call this meeting of the Palmer City Council to order for March 12th, 2024 at 6 o'clock. Madam Clerk, could you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Best. Here. Councilmember Tudor.
Here.
Mayor Carrington.
Here.
Councilmember Moline.
Here.
Councilmember Alcantara.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Anzalati.
Here.
Councilmember Cooper.
Present.
If I could ask everyone to join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Commander LaCroix, could we ask you to lead us in the pledge? All right, next we have approval of the agenda, which includes the consent agenda, which has introduction of ordinance number 24-002, amending the Palmer Municipal Code Title IV to reflect changes in federal and state laws to include current employment law best practices and set the public hearing for March 26th. And that's basically when it's introducing it, so everybody can read the information on it, but we'll bring it up and be voting on it on March 26th. Action memorandum number 24-011, authorizing the city manager to spend $60,000 in pass-through funds from the COSAP grant that was approved by council on December 12, 2022. Action memorandum number 24-014, authorizing the city manager to purchase an Exmark Laser Z lawnmower from Alaska Electric and Control Inc., DBA Joule Equipment, in the amount not to exceed $21,720.28. And action memorandum number 24-015, authorizing the city manager to sign a professional service contract for structural evaluation for the repair of the Palmer Public Library with P&D Engineers not to exceed $21,416, and the approval of the minutes from February 27th, 2024.
Mayor.
Yes, Councilman Cooper.
I would like to ask that consent agenda item D be removed so that we can discuss that, please.
Which one, D?
D is the professional service contract for the library.
Okay, which letter is this now?
It's 1D, and we move it into either new business or existing business or wherever you'd like to put it.
Okay, for new business?
Yes, please.
Okay,
Second.
all right. Is there any objection from the council to do that? Okay. And then I'd also ask, I'd like to rearrange and do council member comments after public hearings and before action memoranda, if that's okay, if there's no objection from council. And it will probably make sense later. All right, is there any other changes? Okay,
Move for approval as amended.
okay, moved,
Second.
seconded. It's your choice, John or Josh. All right, Madam Clerk, if you could call the roll, please.
Councilmember Alcantara.
Yes.
Councilmember Moline.
Yes.
Mayor Carrington.
Yes.
Councilmember Tudor.
Yes.
Councilmember Best.
Yes.
Councilmember Cooper.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Anzalati.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Okay, and that's passes then. We have, I don't know of any elected officials in attendance, et cetera. So I believe we have a presentation from the Mobile Crisis Team. Commander LaCroix, I understand you might be introducing the presenter.
Ladies and gentlemen of the council, as I'm sure,
There's a microphone. I know, you probably were in the military, but you need to, yeah.
as I'm sure most of you are aware of the issues we've been having in our community over the last several years involving our homeless and those who have behavioral health issues and how it's affected our community and how we are severely lacking in communities to assist those people. So I'm happy today to be here to introduce the Mobile Crisis Team. For those of you who aren't aware of what that is, it's a program that's was started by True North and partnered with the Wasilla Police Department last year. to do a pilot program in which they have a team that is composed of clinicians and peers who come out to scenes and work with people who are in crisis, and basically they work to get them the resources they need then, not the next day. So I'm not going to talk too much because they're going to be able to tell you a lot more. So I'd like to have them come up and introduce them. There's Melissa Paulson, James Savage, and Sean Morton. Come on up.
Thank you. Welcome. Yeah, you have to get it pretty close to use it.
So I'm not actually on the team, but I'm the Crisis Now coordinator for the MATSU. So I just want to give you some context for how to understand how the team works. So you have this in your packet. So basically, you know, the emergency system that we've had for years really focuses a lot on physical health emergencies. And people with behavioral health emergencies would be taken to Matsu Pretrial or to the hospital, but they really wouldn't be getting the care that they needed in either of those places. So this is something that's been developing in the lower 48, and we have it now in several places in Alaska. So it's really just a parallel system. So we have this crisis line called 988. It's like 911, but it's called 988, and people can call with behavioral health crises, and they can talk to a type of a counselor, and that person can help de-escalate the situation and get them to the services they need. But if there's a small number of cases that will need to be have someone go out to them. So, and the way this is working is people will call 911. If that is the situation, the mobile crisis team will respond. So that's just like an ambulance, but for a behavioral health crisis. And instead of going to the emergency department, we're developing crisis stabilization places for the mobile crisis team to take this person to. And that's pretty rare that they actually have to do that. Another slide shows that out of about 100 calls they've seen in other areas with this, the mobile crisis team is just dispatched about 10 times, and then out of those 10 visits, most of the time, people are left in the community. They solve or at least stabilize the crisis. About 3 times they have to transport them to a stabilization center. So I just wanted to give you that context, and now I'll let the mobile crisis team talk.
Good evening, everybody. My name is James Savage. So I am currently the Director of Operations for True North Recovery's Day One Center. Day One is essentially behavioral health urgent care. I'm also the current chair for the Matsu Opioid Task Force. I'm the chair for the Alaska Mental Health Board that serves at the pleasure of the governor. And more important than all those job titles, I'm a person in long-term recovery from a substance use disorder. What that means is when we engage with these folks on the scene, I've been through the things that they've been through. My team has been through the things that they've been through. We're going to pair that lived experience with a mental health clinician that is highly trained, and we're going to be able to mitigate these crises in the location that the crisis occurred. Right now, the mobile crisis team is serving one of our community members in downtown Palmer. It is call number 295 that this team has served inside the Matsu Borough. Our current service area is from Zero Lake Road, just north of Willow. Our eastern boundary is Moose Creek. Our southern boundary is the Old Glen Highway headed towards Anchorage. And then our western boundary is Point McKenzie Road and Susitna Parkway. So we are serving a absolutely incredibly large area. There's currently 2 teams on the road at any given time. These teams are operational 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year to serve these communities. The team is comprised of a mental health clinician that has a master's degree or better. We have multiple team members that have sought higher licensure. We have team members with a specialty in substance abuse. We have team members with a specialty in adolescence, so on and so forth. All of the individuals that are peers or come from a lived experience background like myself, these are individuals that have found success in their own recovery and have proven to be exemplary in all things of their own healing, and have now turned back around to the community that they live in to give back to that community. These are folks that have come up through our programs as clients at times. These are individuals that have proven high-level professionalism. We're not putting anyone that is at risk back in the community to help those that are still at risk. The mobile crisis team is one component of a multi-pillared system called Crisis Now that Melissa alluded to earlier. Day One houses some of those other pillars. That's the walk-in services. That's a co-ed withdrawal management or detox program that operates just behind Evangelos. And what Mobile Crisis's overarching goal is to be another tool in the tool belt of someone like Commander LaCroix, someone like Palmer EMS and Fire, and the other entities that we serve. We're currently in partnership with two dispatch entities, 9G base here in Palmer, MATCOM and Wasilla. The Alaska State Troopers, Wasilla PD, Palmer Police Department, Borough EMS, and Palmer Police or EMS and Fire. So there's a lot of folks that have all come together to best serve our community with this initiative. And right now, the Mobile Crisis team has a 91% left in community percentage. And what that means is 91% of the time when we're on scene with an individual, they're not going to pretrial, they're not riding in the back of a cop car, they're not going to Mat-Su Regional, and they're no longer a burden to the community. I know when I was actively using, I wasn't real big on paying my bills. So these folks that are not engaging in these emergency services systems are not costing us tax dollars as well. And as an added benefit, and the most important part to a fellow like me, is this individual is getting individualized care at the highest time of need, right? When the thing just happened or they've decided that their life is worth saving. We know that when we deal with somebody with a mental health concern or a substance use issue, that window of change is very, very small, right? When they say that they're ready, we need the ability to say yes. This Mobile Crisis team and this Crisis Now system of care is the community's ability to say yes. So with that, that's all things in a nutshell. I would encourage you to please come check out Day One. Don't call, don't make an appointment. I would love for you guys to see what we do in action. We're the same Monday morning as we are Friday afternoon. That building is open 7 days a week, Monday through Sunday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. If you guys have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Councilman Cooper.
Thank you. Melissa, you mentioned 988. This is the first I've heard of that number. Where is that published? How do people know about that? You know, and how do we get it out into the public?
So MCT is actually dispatched through 911 currently. 988 is another faculty of our dispatch system. 988 has been alive and well in Alaska for 23 years. They're housed in Fairbanks. They have a satellite location in Wasilla. If you were to call 211 for support or community resources, Connect Mat-Su or Connect Palmer would also direct you to that 988 suicide hotline. It is also a dispatch entity that's connected to the National Suicide Hotline. So in the event that somebody calls the National Suicide Hotline, you see it run across television ads, they would then be forwarded to an Alaska-based entity, which is the Care Line.
But it just went national last year.
Okay. Councilmember Moline.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you so much for coming. This is kind of a little bit dear to my heart because I work in this field. We, in telehealth services, and telepsych is one of the biggest issues that we deal with, and we do know that we have a deficit in the state for care. So thank you for what you do, because I know this is very, very tough. But I do have a question for you. Maybe just I might have missed it in the chain of what actually happens from the time that the call comes in to the time that the clinician is engaged in care. And you said they have a master's degree or higher, which, I'm not sure what's much higher other than their doctorate. But can you explain, are they taking are they getting eyes on the patient, or are they just listening in and perhaps doing a quick assessment at that moment through verbal confirmation?
So our master's level clinician or better, and I say or better because we have some folks that are going for some specialties, and that was their ask when I do presentations. So they're joining the peer and our law enforcement partners on scene. They're engaging with de-escalation skills. They're engaging with, a lot of times we see tapping as a method for de-escalation and self-regulation. Their biggest goal is to alleviate the crisis in a way that we don't have to engage in emergency service and get them connected to long-term resources so that they don't have to call and be in that scenario again. One thing that is drastically different about the Mat-Su Valley that this mobile crisis team has been able to orchestrate is a community care team that is connected as behavioral health providers. So this mobile crisis team has access to a network of community care providers that have agreed to streamline access to care for anybody that's engaged in the crisis system. In layman terms, when we call for a psych evaluation or when we call for an assessment to get into treatment, you can hear 3, 6, 9, 12 weeks. This team has access to get those appointments in a near immediate fashion so that we don't lose that window of care for an individual that has decided something needs to change. And it's a further testament to this community's ability to say yes.
Very good. I just want to follow up. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So thank you for that wonderful explanation. What is your biggest need right now as far as maybe perhaps expanding the program? If you can expand on that, I'm sure dollars are always involved, but what is your biggest need and your biggest deficit right now?
I hate to be that guy from the microphone, but you touched on it. Financially, this program doesn't make sense. As a business model, it does not make any sense to open a mobile crisis team and try and provide this to a community. In conjunction with the other services that Day One and our community providers provide to the community, it makes a ton of sense. It's the right thing to do. Financially, it's a losing battle. The reimbursement rate for mobile crisis is $180 per call. My staffing far exceeds that to the tone of about 120%. So we would need to do 11 calls a day to break even, and that's exhausting for a team that works 365 the way that we do.
And how long have you been working? You started in Wasilla, and then when did you start working in the Palmer area?
So we had an all-call for Go Live in Palmer March 7th. We have been partnered with EMS and Palmer Fire, with Borough EMS and Fire, and we have found ourselves on this end of the valley a few times on special occasions to help with calls that they were working. But the genuine, we're all in, our radios do everything they're supposed to be doing was March 7th, so just a few days. We've responded to half a dozen calls inside the city limits of Palmer at this point. And like I said, my team's on one now. That's why you guys heard the radio go off when Melissa was sharing.
Councilman Alcantara.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Savage, a great presentation. One of the things I found, the Need Help card that has a lot of information at some of the events that have been sponsored here in the community. Don't see your guys' stuff on here just yet, but I didn't know that was just a 5-day window for Palmer. Did you mention 295 calls that I wrote down 295? Put that in context for me. Is that from the start? How many months ago?
Mobile Crisis Team in Wasilla launched on March 18th of 2023, and we have served 295 unique individuals. That's not the total number of calls.
Thank you.
So that's 295 human beings that we have served. Some of those folks call more than once or get responded to more than once. We call them familiar faces.
All right. Any other questions from the council? Okay. Well, thank you very much for coming and bringing us up to date with this.
Absolutely. Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Thanks. Next, we have city manager's report.
Yes, it looks like it's a big night tonight, so I'll be very limited. Just wanted to let you know that at a future meeting, we'll be bringing forth permission or your heads up for working with a grant writer for the purpose of public safety facilities, reaching out to that. Also, too, we are submitting an application, we hope for Public Works, but I haven't got a confirmation yet on that, and then also the library for the federal earmarks that has just opened up, or different agencies. And we are also in the process of a grant to get pass-through money from the feds to the state to really do an analysis on our computer liabilities, internet liabilities, that sort of thing. Those are pretty extensive. We looked at the price, and it was about $40,000 just to do that test. We are hopeful to get that funding for that. that will kind of tell us exactly where we need to upgrade and what we need to do in the future. That's all I have for this evening.
Any questions for the manager? Councilman Tudor?
Thank you. Is this like a cybersecurity, like penetration testing kind of thing?
Is that the lingo from the IT people?
I was just wondering what the, what.
It
you know, what he
is.
said. Okay.
It
good.
is.
Any other questions for the manager from the council? Okay. Next is the mayor's report. I've got a written report here. I mentioned there's a website out for the state STIP. That's been an interesting issue where it kind of got all pulled back, and then this is kind of the new published STIP, which is makes for fascinating reading. We'll just say it that way. I'm working on a letter of support from the food bank because they're working to try to construct a new site. They've been in that little building underneath the power lines there for quite a while. And then Arctic Winter Games, and then I spent quite a bit of time kind of covering conflict of interest, which will come up later. I've written an article on it before. It's not difficult. We just have to follow the procedure. So, is there any questions for me from the council?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilman Malik.
Thank you. You had touched on the food bank, looking for a building. Was I mistaken in the fact that they did secure a lot, correct? For relocation? They're just now looking for the building, correct?
Well, I
Sorry,
believe
just-
they're in the process of looking for money, and so they're trying to
For-
get support letters
To support the building, okay.
to build the building.
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
And unless the council objects, and then I won't write the letter, but
No, I just was trying to clarify my
That's
recollection
fine.
of memory, thank you.
city clerk's report.
I submitted a written report, and I'm happy to answer any questions if the council has any questions.
So is there any questions for the clerk? Okay. Next, city attorney's report.
Good evening. I don't have a report this evening, but I'm available for questions as needed.
Since your report went a little long last meeting, that's probably okay.
I've been informed I used my quota.
Yes. Any questions for the attorney at this time? Okay. Next, we have audience participation. Please sign in, state your name, 3 minutes per person. Council meeting rules protect your right to testify and be heard, even if others in the room disagree with you. Council meeting rules also ensure that those attending can express their views if they do not interfere with the rights of others to see and hear the proceedings. At all times, order and decorum will be maintained in keeping with the civility and dignity of the legislative process. All right, we'll open audience participation, and there's a sign up. I'm not sure. Sherman, did you sign up first? Yes, sir. Okay.
My name's Sherman Leifer. I'm here on behalf of the Palmer Chamber of Commerce. We have a written statement that I was going to read out in regards to some stuff that's been flying around on Friday Flings. In recent discussions about the 2024 Friday Fling, we've become aware of the strong feelings within our community regarding the proposed changes, particularly concerning the number of food trucks. We acknowledge that the mention of potentially reducing the number has caused concern. While we are still in the process of evaluating all aspects of the event, it's important to clarify that no definitive plans have been finalized regarding this matter. Our intention is to listen and adapt to the community's feedback, ensuring that any changes made serve the best interests of all involved. The Friday Fling was initially conceived with the intention of drawing people to explore downtown Palmer, not just the events area. This founding principle guides our decision-making as we consider returning to the Friday Fling's original footprint. Our objective is to enhance the entire downtown area, encouraging visitors to experience all that Palmer has to offer beyond the confines of Friday Flings itself. Several factors have influenced our consideration of the event's layout and scale. These include parking issues, which have become increasingly challenging as our event has grown, making it difficult for both attendees and local residents. By adjusting the layout, we aim to improve accessibility and convenience for everyone. We've also observed a decrease in sales for vendors both inside the Friday Fling, as the addition of more vendors has diluted customer spending, and outside the Friday Fling, where local brick and mortar businesses have felt the impact. This adjustment is an effort to concentrate the flow of attendees, ensuring all vendors, including our community's permanent businesses, can thrive. Additionally, staffing challenges and the need to comply with city codes have necessitated a reevaluation of the event's scale and scope. Our goal is not to impose restrictions, but to create an environment where all vendors can thrive, reflecting the changing dynamics of our market and the diverse needs of our community. The decisions at hand are complex, involving multiple factors and stakeholders. We are committed to finding a balance that respects the heritage of the Friday Fling while adapting to its growth. Furthermore, we want to reassure everyone that live music, a cherished feature of our gatherings, will continue to be a central part of the Friday Fling. We are also excited to announce that we will be broadening the range of activities available, offering more diverse options for enjoyment and engagement that reflect the wide array of interests within our community. We understand the importance of transparent and inclusive decision-making. The Palmer Chamber has no closed meetings regarding the Friday Fling. All members are welcome to join the Friday Fling committee, and we would love to see more members involved to help us with all the events. We are actively looking for more people to get involved with our events. It's worth noting that the only two paid positions within this framework are the executive director and the event marketing position. The board members receive no financial compensation for their efforts, underscoring our commitment to volunteering and community service. The concerns raised are a reminder of the value of every voice in our community. As we move forward, we are committed to an open dialogue, inviting all members of Palmer to share their thoughts, hopes, and ideas in regards to the Friday Fling. Your input is crucial as we strive to create an event that celebrates our community's spirit and unity. We appreciate your patience and understanding as we navigate these discussions. Please know that your board members are here to listen and engage with you. Together, we can ensure the Friday Fling continues to be an event that brings joy, fosters community, and celebrates the fabric of Palmer.
Thank
That's
you.
our prepared statement, so I just wanted to throw that out there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else for audience participation? I don't know who signed up.
I'm signed up next, so I'll go, because I
Okay,
couldn't
thank-
sign.
Oh,
Mr. Mayor and council, my name is Jackie Goforth. I had surgery last Wednesday on my shoulder for something that happened months ago. It has nothing to do with the fact that the Wasilla mayor said karma would get me. I also want you to know that I appeared at the school district on Wednesday to speak, and I appeared at Wasilla yesterday. And it was for the same reason that I was out there gathering signatures with petitioners in the worst weather I've ever seen, including the windstorm. It's because it's not what people say. It's not the librarians, it's not the attorneys, it's not the politicians. It's about what the people think. The people are the ones who are in charge. They pay the salaries. All they need to know is what is going on. And that's why I was out there, and that's why I'm still here. They will not. The people in this valley, the overwhelming majority of them are patriots, absolute patriots. They believe in God, country, and family. They will not allow wokeness in here. They will not allow people to push sexualization on their children. They will not allow child pornography, absolute literal child pornography. There is a 9-year-old being molested in that book, Identical. They will not allow that to be pushed on their children. All they need to know is that it's there. That was the first reason. The second reason I speak is because I will not allow the slanted, biased, misleading article that the Anchorage Daily News put out when they were talking about the attorney's presentation 2 weeks ago to go unchallenged. The very first thing that was put in there is that someone 15 could file if you tried to keep them from having their rights, having a book given to them. But nobody ever mentioned the fact that the First Amendment does not guarantee or cover obscenity. It doesn't cover obscenity. Obscenity is not allowed under the First Amendment. The second thing is in that article, it actually said that everything is based on the community standards of the US, not the community standards of the place. It says that in the article. It says, hey, when harm to child is taken into consideration, it's the US standards, not the community standards. And everyone who has read the letter put out by Treg Tainer knows that is complete fiction. There are 3 sections to the harm for child. Number 1 is it prurient interest? That is based on the community standards in the community of adults. The second one is it patently offensive? Is it patently offensive to the average citizen in the community? And the third one is based on, yes, a value system. That one can be based on things that are in the United States, but it's subjective. I also want you to know that all of the cases that were listed by the attorney last time have nothing to do with the Miller-Ginsburg test or obscenity being distributed to children. None of them. One of them, in fact.
That's your time.
That's my time? Okay. It just barely ran. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council. Yesterday, I thought I'd look in to see how...
Please start with your name.
I'm sorry. My name's Karen Lewis. I always forget that. I thought I'd look into how many states are filing legislation pertaining to the books and the obscenity in the schools and in the libraries, the public libraries too. And I found 104 different bills from different states, like in Iowa. It says, under current law, a city council may, on its own motion, or shall, upon receipt of a valid petition, submit a proposal to alter the composition, select process, or change of the library board to the voters of the city. The bill strikes this provision and allows the city council to alter the composition, manner of selection, or charge of the library board by ordinance. I think that'd be really good in our state. Okay, Missouri prohibits the state librarian from dispersing funds to libraries that offer obscene materials to children. That'd be good here, too. Let's see. New Hampshire, a bill that prohibits material that is obscene or harmful to minors in schools, requires vendors of school library materials to develop appropriate ratings and creates a procedure for removal and cause of action. That one, too. Utah, the bill amends provisions regarding the evaluation of instructional material to identify and remove pornographic or indecent material. Very good. Kansas, removing an affirmative defense for public, private, and parochial schools from the crime of promotion to minors of material harmful to minors. Illinois, online age verification. Yeah. Parental notification, this is Wisconsin, parental notification related to school library materials. Wisconsin, pupil or minor access to harmful material in public libraries and to harmful material or offensive material in public schools. Wisconsin, this bill requires public libraries and public schools, including charter schools, to take steps to prevent pupils and minors from accessing harmful material on computers. Under the bill, harmful material is defined as any picture, photograph, drawing, sculpture, motion picture film, or similar visual representation or image of a person or portion of the human body that depicts nudity, sexually explicit conduct, sadomasochistic abuse, physical torture, or brutality, and that is harmful to children. Or any book, pamphlet, magazine, printed matter, however reproduced or recording that contains matter described in item 1, or explicit and detailed verbal descriptions or narrative accounts of sexual excitement, sexually explicit conduct, sadomasochistic, really? Okay, well, I got a ways to go. Thank you.
Thank you.
But the whole idea is, we need some legislative action.
My name is Linda Spallin.
Did you sign in?
Okay, to not be able to define obscenity is ridiculous. It's foolish. To not be able to define the perverted, vulgar, indecent, pornographic filth in the material we have presented to you in local libraries as obscenity is insane. Our Alaska Attorney General, Treg Taylor, defined it quite well in his November 16th, 2023 letter. So I would refer to him personally. So let's call it addictions. Pornography is an addiction, so are drugs, alcohol, and cigarettes, all glorified in these books. Why do taxpayers have to pay for addictive material in local libraries? Addictive, obscene material is utterly without redeeming social value. We want accountability for how our tax dollars are spent, and we haven't been getting it. As elected officials, you have a responsibility to decide what is best for the people and the community as a whole. To promote addictive, obscene material in libraries and schools is not beneficial for our community. To leave addictive material in libraries and schools sets a precedent or guide to be considered in future scenarios. It leaves the door open for more and more and worse and worse. This is how addictions work. The addict seeks more and more and worse and worse. Where does this go in years to come? We need a resolution to have this dangerous material removed from the libraries, never to be put in local libraries or schools again. We are not taking away anyone's First Amendment freedom. This filthy content is available to whoever seeks it. We never said ban anything or burn anything. We just don't want our hard-earned tax dollars paying for it. The Marxist ideology is to have the taxpayers fund to shatter traditional family values. We need leaders who will protect and unite people in a healthy atmosphere, thinking of the future of families. We all need to focus. What is truth and what is delusional? What is right and what is wrong? What is good and what is evil? Because there is light and there is darkness. We need to keep our focus. May God help us through the shed blood of Jesus.
Thank you. Is there anyone else for audience participation?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Councilman. My thing seems really small now, but well, my name is
Yeah, go ahead.
yes. Hello, my name is Maria Krenock. I am a New Palmer resident and thrilled to be a part of the Palmer community. My husband and I bought property with the intent to occupy it and do short-term rental according to the CCRs to help compensate for a high mortgage. After we moved in and spent several $1,000s on construction for short-term rental, we found that we are type 1, R1, but that our lot did not meet the 20,000 square foot requirement. I understand that the council cannot respond at this time, but would there be any flexibility in owner-occupied type 1, R1 conditional use permit for lots under 20,000 square feet? After reviewing the standards for type 1, R1, I believe the city has done an amazing job in setting up specific requirements in place that could carry over to a smaller lot with some additional restrictions and still keep our neighborhoods family-oriented. I look forward in working with the council to find a solution through legislation on this matter. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Did you sign in, please?
I did.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else for audience participation?
Yeah, good evening, Mayor and Council. I appreciate the ones of you that actually listen when the people come up here. That's very
Can you
appreciated.
start with your name, please?
It's Mark Spohn.
Thank you.
And, you know, you might not agree with it, what everybody's saying, but it's appreciated if you do pay attention and listen. So thank you for that. It seems like maybe you're seeking some direction because nothing is happening with these taxpayer-funded pornography that we're pushing in these libraries. It's very easy, just stop it. Why don't you be a pornography-free library? So it's funded by taxpayers. You have the right what goes in those institutions. You aren't mandated by somebody. Nobody said to take the books away. Just, we're gonna make it a pornography-free institution. You're paying the people that work there with taxpayer funds so that we're out of the pornography business. There's been a lot of changes. The whole Matsu borough changed the voting system for borough elections. Nobody, you know, they said, we're gonna get rid of the machines, we're gonna have ballots, and we're gonna count them on site, and it worked fine. Well, we could have pornography-free libraries too, and you might be surprised how well it would work. And you wouldn't have to see me sitting here talking. But I mean, why is everybody afraid to do something? Are you all in love with pornography? Do you promote pornography? Is that your agenda? It's harming kids. If we aren't, of all the good things they do and all the things I can see being done, it's all irrelevant if we're gonna harm these young people. Because believe me, they are being harmed by it. And you have people telling you all the literature value in it. Come on. Reading pornography is not good for kids. But nobody's taking any action. Oh, well, we'll just let these people sit here and talk. They can read pornography to do us. Can you imagine what it's like to sit here and read that stuff and how a person feels after doing it? There's can't be something worse than that. I've never experienced it. But are you doing anything about it? It's taxpayer money. Just remember that. You're a steward for that money. You're supposed to be responsible for how you spend it. Just don't spend it on pornography. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. My name is Mike Malevsky, and I live in downtown Palmer, 325 East Fireweed Avenue. And what I wanted to talk about is these. Some of you have them, and they say different things. Mine says MDA, which actually in small letters means media. And that's allowed us to wander about, interview a whole bunch of different people. But I also wanted to point out something about the Arctic Winter Games that has been fascinating if you've been involved. There are not quite 2,000 young people that have arrived here, and there are a large number of people, adults, that have accompanied them. They're coaches, they're officials, and so on. And they're staying at a variety of villages, and they're being transported from place to place, and they're competing in different venues. But I think the important takeaway that I found was that the care for their privacy, their protection is extreme. Many of you have noted that. You can't just wander in someplace. There will be somebody there that says, oh, do you have access privilege to this particular place? That's been a very good thing. And generally speaking, I would also add that since I've had an opportunity to interview people and watch people on the streets of Palmer, there's certainly a degree of joy involved with this whole process of the Arctic Winter Games that I have not seen at other times. I know there are gatherings, we have parades, we have Friday Fling, we have the fair. But this whole concept of doing Arctic Winter Games from the get-go and also down through the ages, literally, has had a very positive thrust to it. And what I would do is encourage you all, if you have not attended anything yet, whether it's curling, hockey, whether it's one of the cultural events or coming up, what is purported to be the biggest fireworks display ever in this area, it'll be toward the weekend, I would spend some time, and as you do, you'll meet with and see a whole bunch of other people that are very happy to have come to Palmer, Alaska, and it's just fascinating, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else for audience participation? We have time for another one. I didn't mention it this time, but there's actually a 30-minute time limit for audience participation, but we're actually at, I don't know, 20-some minutes, so. No one else at this point? Okay. We will close audience participation, the first one, and go to public hearings. Resolution number 23-005B, a resolution of the Palmer City Council amending the City of Palmer budget for the fiscal year ending December 31, 2023. And we'll open this audience participation. Does anyone wish to speak to this resolution? Okay, we will close the public hearing. What's the wishes of the council?
Move to approve. Second.
Moved and seconded. Does the council have any questions or comments they want to make about this? Councilman Cooper.
Thank you, yes. This is, I'm sure, is for our finance director, and this is page 2, Water Sewer Fund has an increase in revenues from the original budget and service fees. So my question is, if we have an increase in revenues, why are we increasing the fees to the residents?
Mr. Manager.
So that is a very good question. We really need to be good stewards of our facilities. In many instances, they are old, and so we will not have that big major expenditure at this year. It may happen a year or two down the road. And as manager, and you'll be looking for a new one, so if you don't like this, you're in luck. I think it's much better to incrementally raise our rates as we needed, as opposed to not raise them and then hit our residents with 25, 30, 40%. I think with people living paycheck to paycheck, yeah, it stinks, but 3% doesn't stink nearly as much as 30%. That's been my philosophy. So I don't think we're gouging customers. I know you've had discussions, don't point this back at me again, on where a manager lives, but when these rates get recommended by me to City Council, I'm paying them too.
Follow up, sir?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Do we not have, isn't there not like a $6.8 million sitting around for sewer water improvements?
I don't know the exact, Mayor, can I answer?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know the exact number, but we just went through a clarifier project, 2 phases, 24 million.
Any other questions of the council? Or comments? Councilman Alcantara.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So overall, this is a pretty substantial revenue increase, right? And most, I mean, I read through the pieces, but a big lion's share of the piece is just more in sales tax revenue than anticipated, if I'm following along on this overall increase in the revenue.
Mr. Manager?
Yes.
All right. Any other questions or comments from the council? Okay, Madam Clerk, if you could call the roll, please.
Councilmember Moline?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Anzalotti?
Yes.
Councilmember Cooper?
Yes.
Councilmember Best?
Yes.
Councilmember Tudor?
Yes.
Councilmember Alcantara?
Yes.
Mayor Carrington?
Yes.
Unanimous?
All right, and then we have resolution number 24-016, a resolution authorizing the city manager to create a new position of an on-call evidence and records custodian at the Palmer Police Department. And we'll open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak to this resolution can come forward at this time. Okay, seeing no one, we will close the public hearing. What's the wishes of the council?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
move to approve.
Second?
Moved and seconded by Deputy Mayor. So is there any questions? Councilman Cooper?
Yeah, probably a question for the chief. So this is, you call this an on-call position. What does that actually mean? Please.
Mr. Manager, do you want to drag the chief into this?
Got an in for the bullpen.
Perfect. Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Councilman Cooper, yes, great question. The on-call means that it's as needed. So we have three different type of categories. We have full-time, and we have part-time, and then we have on-call. A full-time position, obviously somebody that works, I believe it is 40 hours or more a week. And part-time is somebody that is 20 hours a week. The on-call is somebody that works as needed. My intent to use this position as an on-call, first off, I have a on-call budget that's currently in the 2024 approved budget. There's a dollar amount, and so I can use that to pay for the on-call position. The on-call records and evidence custodian would work in times when our full-time evidence and record custodian is on leave or on vacation or is out sick, and then on during periods of time off, like during the normal week. The on-call makes more sense because it is funded in the budget.
Follow up, please.
Yes, follow up.
I guess I'm kind of, I was confused by the on-call wording. That, you know, to me, on-call means, hey, chief, can you come in today and work on the system? But what you're saying is actually when you have a vacancy, whether it's due to leave and or sickness or vacation or whatever, then that person would come in.
Yes, that is correct. It's on-call rather than standby. They're not standing by the phone waiting for it to call, but are available on during these dates, periods of time, if they're needed. Yes.
Councilman Tudor?
Thank you, Mr. Just to kind of, it looks like the qualifications, there's quite a bit, needs to be someone that's trained, it looks like. So with this position, it's gonna be like kind of done to kind of cooperate with other police departments when they have somebody that's available? Or it just seems like to have somebody that just works kind of as needed with these qualifications may be a little bit difficult. Just was curious about that.
So, yeah, this is a position that does require quite a bit of training and has unique qualifications. There have been some people that have expressed interest in it that would meet that criteria. So, I don't know if that answered your question. Or, yeah.
Council member?
Go ahead. I think Richard had his on first.
Oh, there it is. Sorry, it's direct on. Councilman Best.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question is, you mentioned that you had an on-call budget, and then we're approving the 30,000 here. So is that the total expenditure that you're anticipating, 30,000, or is this an augmentation of your current budget? And so it could be whatever is in your budget plus this 30,000 would be the cost potentially to be utilized for that position. And how much is in that budget already?
Currently, I believe there is 30,000 in that budget, and that is what would be used to fund this position. It would not be an addition to.
He tried.
I tried. I tried really hard.
Thank you. And I think that really clarifies, you know, the additional costs, you know, that this isn't really an additional cost. It's just the position is going to be utilizing funds that had already been budgeted. So this is really just feedback to us of how this is going to be utilized. Appreciate that.
Okay. Councilwoman Moline.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Chief. And actually, thank you, Councilman Best, because that was along the lines of the question that I had. You currently have a full-time, an FTE for that position. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay,
In fact, I think she just walked in downstairs.
She did.
So she's,
Oh, she's right back here.
Oh, she's right back here. Yes, that is our full-time evidence and records
Okay.
clerk.
And then do you have a part-time as well?
I do not have a
So this
part-time
will
right
be-
now.
okay,
We
very
do
good.
have
Thank
a police officer, Officer Ogden, who acts as a evidence custodian, but he's limited on what he can and cannot do. He doesn't do records requests, he does not do He does limited distribution, which is getting the documents to the court and to the district attorney's office as they're needed. What we've seen, I guess, to give you a little bit of history of our evidence and records facility is kind of morphed over the years. Starting with the installation of in-car video back in the day when I started working here. And now we've included body cameras, that sort of thing. Anyway, it's just requires, even though stuff is being handled electronically, it requires a lot more time to redact and to be able to make copies of that to get it to meet the requirements of records requests. That also has gotten easier, the ability for people to do records requests. So we've seen an influx of it. And Hillary is an awesome employee. She's really good at her job, but she is one person. And so what I've noticed over the last year and a half, 2 years, is that she is in here on her days off, after hours, and is putting in quite a bit of overtime. And my goal in this on-call position is to be able to ascertain what a realistic number of employees do we need in this position? Is it a 2.0? Is it a 1.25? Or is it a, what is it, a 1.5? Is it, 6? I don't know. That way we can, in the future, better prepare to meet the needs of our citizens.
Any other questions of council? All right, thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, if you could call the roll, please.
Councilmember Tudor?
Yes.
Councilmember Alcantara?
Yes.
Councilmember Best?
Yes.
Councilmember Cooper?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Anzalotti?
Yes.
Councilmember Moline?
Yes.
Mayor Carrington?
Yes.
Unanimous.
All right, next I moved it around for council comments. I know it's a little early in the meeting, but Councilman Tudor, do you have any comments?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
This is the chance for council
I
comments.
just put a licer in my mouth, so
Oh,
sorry about the.
We get started.
But I just want to say thank you to True North Recovery for coming in. I think it's a great presentation, and it's one of those things where we need multiple ways of assisting those in our community who are dealing with addiction or mental health. I think it's a really good program. I'm really looking forward to see how that bears fruit. And just a big shout out to the volunteers helping out the Arctic Winter Games. A lot of you out there are probably kind of exhausted with all the helping that's going on. A lot of late nights, but it's so critical. I mean, the Arctic Winter Games is an amazing, once in a lifetime event. I just want to encourage everyone to go out and check out the events, check out all the different things going on, like at the train depot and all the other places. It's really amazing, and just want to say how much I appreciate those that are putting the work in to help out with that, and especially the athletes that are here and the coaches and all the support staff. It's really awe-inspiring to see them here and how hard they're working. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Alcantara?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks for moving this up here. I may be leaving earlier than not tonight. But yeah, echoing what Councilmember Tudor said, I appreciate Mr. Savage's presentation and the others on there. As always, appreciate audience participation. But I do want to say the Arctic Winter Games really blew my socks off. I didn't know what to really expect. I didn't go to the ones in Fairbanks in 2014, 10 years ago, and what Mat-Su, Palmer, Wasilla have done, at least in the opening ceremonies, yeah, I was floored. I got there 10 minutes to 4, which wasn't recommended, but just was scurrying from a church board meeting to get to Wasilla, and man, I'm glad I went, because it was phenomenal opening ceremonies. And I think, as my friend to my right pointed out, if you have a chance to go see some events, you should take advantage of that. I'll be out of town for the next week, starting tomorrow morning, so I'm going to miss that gigantic fireworks show and the rest of the events. But I would recommend to anybody definitely take advantage of it. So, thank you.
Councilman Cooper?
Thank you, Mayor. Kind of along the same lines, I did attend the opening ceremony, and it was pretty phenomenal watching 2,000 kids fill up the ice rink and then a couple thousand people in stands. And, you know, so there's like 3,000 visitors plus the 2,000 athletes and 2,000 volunteers. So there's a lot of people in town, and I appreciate Big Cabbage Radio for interviewing people and going around, and the co-owner of Big Cabbage Radio is actually volunteering at some of the schools as well. It's really it's a phenomenal event, considering that 2014 was in Fairbanks. The one closest to here was in Eagle River in 1996, and it's we're really pretty fortunate to have it here in town, and I'm sure you see a lot of people walking the streets. I actually have seen people walking from Colony High School into Palmer, which is, of course, they're young athletes, so they can do that. And they range from age 11 to 18. Most of them are 15 to 18, but there's an 11-year-old young lady that is a figure skater. And I did go down and see one event so far, ice curling. And I took ice curling in college, and I'm amazed at the accuracy that these young people have. They just, you know, it was like, holy mackerel, I'm glad I'm not on the ice with them. Thank you.
Councilman Best.
I'd like to echo some of the excitement. Was able to witness the opening ceremonies, beautiful ceremony. The excitement that we all felt seeing those athletes out there, seeing the camaraderie from different athletes from different areas already high-fiving each other, and they're already starting to build those relationships that are going to last a lifetime is a beautiful thing. Some of the activities that I've gotten to go see, also with ice curling, and I had never heard of and I'm going to probably pronounce it wrong, futsal.
Futsal.
And that's being held here in Palmer at the Palmer High School. And basically, it's like a 5-on-5 indoor soccer on a basketball court with a little bit smaller ball, a little bit more dense. But you watch those kids and the footwork that is involved in that. I'd like to see a resolution from this body and other communities about encouraging the Alaska Sports Association for them to actually look at that being a sport that is actually promoted within our state, because what community doesn't have an indoor gymnasium? And because basketball is king out in the villages and whatnot, but this is another sport that we could all get behind, and really the skill set is comparable to soccer and indoor activities, more things that we can do to engage our youth in some of these sports activities. And if we have the facilities already, I mean, I'm all for this thing. It was really neat to watch. You want to talk about some pretty decent body checking going on out there and whatnot. And there wasn't animosity being built up. Everybody understood it was the engagement of sport, and it was just a beautiful thing. So I look forward to some of the other activities. I'm going to go all throughout the week. I'm going to go watch some of the speed skating and downhill stuff as well. And encourage everybody, go out there, trade your pins. When you see the athletes out there, give them a honk or a wave, or introduce yourself. So go say hello, welcome them to the community. It's been wonderful so far, so I appreciate it. And thank you to all the volunteers and everybody that's been working on that.
Yeah, just another comment. I want to thank the city manager for our pins. They are a big hit out there, particularly with the moose on it. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have a lot of comments, I guess, but it has been really fun to make coffee at work for lots of the competitors and their the people that have come from all over the north to compete, and just hear their excitement at being in Palmer. And there's definitely a buzz going on, and it's cool to see everybody walking around the streets, so that's been great. But, I haven't made it to an event yet, but I'm looking forward to it.
Councilwoman Moline.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I, too, echo some of my fellow council members' comments in regards to the Arctic Winter Games. It's a lot of fun to see the excitement in town. You know, when I can escape from work and take a little cruise around town with the dogs in the car, I have not seen one athlete without one of those nice, you know, homemade ice cream bars in their mouth, treating themselves. And it's just really fun to watch this happen in our community and watch the buses carting kids back and forth to all the events. So it's really fun. And I would encourage you to get out there and trade your pins. You know, the pins are a lot of fun to trade as well. I would like to touch on the Crisis Mobile team. Really appreciate them coming in tonight. This is a tough gig. It is a very, very tough gig, and I applaud them for contributing their time and their energy to these situations, because it is not an easy thing to be involved in. And they clearly have a dedication and a passion to serving individuals who are in crisis and in need. So big applause there to them, and would love to hear more of their metrics as they grow and maybe mature the program here in the Valley. I do have one thing that I'm a little concerned about tonight, was the comments from one of our constituents, Maria Cranach, on the short-term rental. Would love to have, if it's appropriate time to ask, I would love to just have maybe a little bit more information on that equitable relief, and maybe if there is a grandfathering clause or anything like that, and maybe that's just something that we can look into to make sure that they've been appropriately put in this lane, so to speak, for this violation. So, and with that, that's what I've got.
All right.
Thank you.
Maybe, Mr. Manager, we could get a report from you at the next meeting on that.
We're well aware, but I'll give you one now.
It can be, I can talk to you afterwards.
Yeah, that might be best.
Okay, thank you.
And I was going to say those hand-dipped ice cream bars are very powerful. I had 3 grandkids and myself sitting in the front row watching 3 native dances, and they were very well behaved because I promised them an ice cream. Another thing I'll comment on is from our lawyer's presentation before, she had mentioned a couple potential action items into the future, and one was to write a letter to the Attorney General, and another was to work on state legislation. And so I believe she's got a draft, and I think we'll be bringing that forward here very soon as far as a letter to the Attorney General asking for more clarification. And I've also started seeking out other cities to maybe join in with us on it to give it a little more clout. And I think we'll take a short break now, well, before we come back to finish our various things. Okay. All right.
Was never no but there was an exception a few years ago that if it's more than 20,000 square feet, because there's some distance and travel and all that, that would be acceptable. She is like 1.6, 1.7 an acre. By zoning and yeah, it is really small, and it's like, what's that? Her lot's 8,500 square feet, 46, so it's 1/5. Unless you want to change the code. No, yeah. So this is something that, you know, it's a great idea, get check it out.
You know, anyway, so she read, subdivision because of that administration quite a lot. So that's why she's here.
Well, the bigger cups, I would just fill them halfway. Well,
I know, like all the school and yeah, yeah. So yes, you can, well, thank you. You're fine. Thank you. I don't know what I was going through, but it's fine. It's like casual stuff. I'm not the professional. Yeah. I was gonna say, you're right.
I didn't really know what. No, I didn't know what it was saying.
He did, because we were trying to figure out. Yeah. How are we doing? Good? All right.
Well, one of it has to do with, you know, how the Indians do it in the other states, and I don't know. All right, you ready? All right. So, how did council comments feel there? Well, I was trying to put, yeah, well, I was trying to put it in the middle and not just slightly ahead of where it normally is. They can hear it.
Yeah.
All right, who we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We got 5. Oh, there's Josh. Okay. All right. Okay. We have more stuff to do. So next is action memoranda. Action memorandum number 24-010, approving a council community grant to the 49th State Street Rotters in the amount of $1,500 for their Valley Chrome and Wheel car show. What's the wishes of the council?
Move to approve.
Second.
So it's been moved and seconded. Is there any questions or comments from the council? Councilman Cooper?
Yes, sir. This is probably directed at Mr. Hanson. I guess I'm wondering, we're offering up $1,500. What is the actual rental of the event center?
So, Mr. Manager, do you want to call Mr. Hanson forward?
Brad, please come forward.
I don't know if it's on or not. See anything on the screen?
Put your glasses on.
Batteries aren't dead.
All right.
About $1,500. They're not gonna get charged any additional fee, the same way they haven't for the last 4 or 5 years.
So the rental is $1,500? And we're giving them $1,500 and then giving them,
No. No, the rental would still apply, right? This would go towards the rental of the facility during their car show?
Okay, so they're gonna pay us $1,500 and we're giving them $1,500? How's this working?
I would say that, I'm not the finance person, but I would say we just will not invoice them for it and take this as the credit towards their rental.
So a paper shuffle?
It's an in-kind donation.
So
Is
why
that
don't we
the
just
amount?
say, just like we're doing for the Arctic Winter Games, why don't we just say we're just donating the facility?
Essentially, we are. It's just that, there needs to be a criteria for donating to it, and you guys make that criteria. You're the ones that donate the money towards that. When somebody comes to us, we charge them what you have in the fee schedule, and typically, right? Unless for some reason you've given them some type of discount, and that's what this is.
Okay, so this is just like basically a paper shuffle?
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
But they also have more of an activity going on, so that's kind of why the whole paperwork.
Councilman Best?
Thank you. And just for clarification, this is really because we as council have a budgeted amount of money that we can, and we have, within our budget, decided that we're going to have this stuff, be able to put it out to different nonprofits and whatnot. And this is the way that we're able to communicate through the public our expenditures of the funds that we've put into our budget.
Councilwoman Moline?
Actually, that was exactly what I was going to say, Mr. Mayor, is that we had decided as a council, we had asked for those expenditures to just be labeled out so that we could track them is all, even though they were an in-kind donation.
Councilman Alcantara?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before Mr. Hanson left, I was going to ask him, but maybe Mr. Musi will know. This is the third or fourth or fifth year in a row that we've done this for this organization. Is that a good guess, or am I just throwing it out there?
Yes, it's a good guess. This is not the first time. This is the fourth year since I've been here we've done it, and it's been well before me. So, and if I can add, Mr. Mayor, this is the same time we're having the great aviation gathering. So have some synergy between the airport, the fairgrounds, and this show. So it's bringing more people into town and spreading them out so they can enjoy more of Palmer.
Transportation showcase, shall we say. All right, any other questions from council? All right, Madam Clerk, if you could call the roll, please.
Mayor Carrington?
Yes.
Councilmember Moline?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Anzalati?
Yes.
Councilmember Cooper?
Yes.
Councilmember Alcantara?
Yes.
Councilmember Best?
Yes.
Councilmember Tudor?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Okay, next, action memorandum number 24-012, authorizing the city manager to purchase a vehicle lift system for fire apparatus from Mohawk Lifts utilizing insurance reimbursement funding from the flood event at the fire department shop building. What's the wishes of the council?
Mr. Mayor, move to approve.
Second?
Okay, been moved and seconded. Is there any questions or comments from the council? Okay, Madam Clerk, if you could call the roll, please.
Councilmember Tudor?
Yes.
Councilmember Alcantara?
Yes.
Councilmember Best?
Yes.
Councilmember Cooper?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Anzalati?
Yes.
Mayor Carrington?
Yes.
Councilmember Moline?
Yes.
Unanimous.
All right. Action memorandum number 24-013, authorizing the city manager to approve high-performance team training for Palmer Fire and Rescue in an amount not to exceed $16,832. What's the wishes of the council?
Move to approve.
Second.
So been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or comments from the council?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilwoman Moline?
Councilwoman Moline.
Yes, I was trying to get that right.
That's okay. I'm not. So is this budgeted already? Do we?
Mr. Manager?
It is budgeted. I can see her shaking her head. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All right, Madam Clerk, if you could call the roll, please.
Councilmember Alcantara?
Yes.
Councilmember Best?
Yes.
Councilmember Tudor?
Yes.
Councilmember Cooper?
Yes.
Councilmember Moline?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Anzalati?
Yes.
Mayor Carrington?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Action memorandum number 24-016, authorizing the city manager to negotiate and execute a 3-year contract with Palmer Museum of History and Art for the custodial care and curation of the City of Palmer's museum artifacts in the amount of $55,400 to reflect 2024 payment. What's the wishes of the council?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or comments from the council?
Yes.
Councilwoman Moline.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I can ask through you to the attorney, with this contract, was it negotiated or was it revamped in a way that allows us an exit strategy without any cost to us within the contract?
Well, I think,
Through the mayor.
go ahead.
Quick background on this. This particular contract I did not draft. This is coming from community development. And however, the director pretty much took the VIC contract, the VIC contract, and amended it to fit the Palmer Museum. So I have glanced at it, but and it's the verbiage I use from that capacity, but this is not one that I drafted nor negotiated with the museum.
Okay.
Thank
You have more? Councilman Alcantara.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On page 11 to 12 of the draft, so page 153 of our packets, am I to assume this payment schedule is actually April, June, and October of '24, and then year 2 would be '25, and year 3 would be '26? I see a bunch of 2022 dates on here.
Mr. Manager, do you want to call Mr. Hanson forward?
Yes. The 22 dates should,
Just all the dates the first series says April 1, 2022, June 1, 2022, October 1, 2022. The dollar figures go up a little bit, obviously, with inflation.
that'd be
but
24.
It's 24, 25, 26, correct?
Correct.
Bless you. All right, I figured that was probably just typo error, so, thank you.
Okay. Councilman Best.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, the comment made by the attorney makes me a little queasy. We've had lots of discussions over the last 3 years, really, about some of our contracts that we had maybe just cut and pasted and duplicated failures and not really protected the entity city in the best interest. And I believed it was our intent was that all contracts were going to be ran through the attorney's office, negotiated and constructed. I understand it as a draft with inside the administration for that to be kind of a, you know, they patch something together and then it goes to the attorney and then that's where contracts would be residing in before it's brought to us. And so I'm of the mindset to ask for a postponement of this so that we can get it through the attorney. The attorney can go through it with a fine tooth comb to make sure it is within the structure that we have decided as a policy from this body to make sure that they are favorable to the city, but also that there is a process of fairness applied to all contracts that are equal. And so I'm curious to see if other council members are also a little gun shy on kind of just pulling the trigger by something that, and our staff are, you know, very, very capable individuals, but we want to make sure that we don't get into the same pattern that we had before.
Okay. Part of what's happened is I believe their contract, they don't have an existing contract right now, and so I basically pushed it to get to the next meeting, you know, when I realized that. So that's this meeting. So that's, but yeah, if you guys want to, you know.
Mr. Mayor, I would support Councilman Best's request that it needs to go
Okay.
back to the attorney to include our branding and the things that we have discussed in the past as far as what those,
Okay.
the infrastructure of our contract should look like.
All right, we don't exactly have a motion yet, but let's, no, that's fine. Let's get a little more clarification. Is that the attorney's light I see?
Yes.
Madam Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do want to clarify again, because I had talked to the mayor about that, and they don't currently have a contract. And so Brad did take almost exactly the Vic contract. So I do want to clarify that this, that I did draft and kind of tweaked it to fit this. So it does include a non-appropriations clause, a termination, a 3-year, it's a 3-year contract without renewal, and then amended it to the different amounts for that. There's probably a little extra in here that they don't even need, you know, like the social media management that was appropriate to the Visitors Information Center, maybe not to the museum. But, so just to address some of your concerns, this is conceptually the Vic contract that I did draft. So he did try to include that. Just
Okay. All right. So I guess I'm wondering what happens if we postpone this. So, Mr. Manager.
Whatever the council decision is tonight, following, I'd ask, because we're already into the first quarter complete, if it would be agreeable if I could pay them for the first portion of this contract. Number one, the work has been done and service has been done. And I understand getting this exactly what city council, but I also don't want to hurt or encumber the people who are doing the work on behalf of the city of Palmer.
Okay. And a question for the attorney, would this be something that could be turned around into the next meeting?
yes, this is pretty quick.
So we could do it on the 26th of March.
I don't see an issue with that.
Okay.
Does that mean I should have already submitted it according to the agenda? So it's
Well,
difficult to mess
well,
around with those pieces, so.
Yeah, well, I'll help negotiate a little bit.
Okay. Our agenda quick is quite strict with the software, and just so everyone
Right.
knows, everyone has to get legislation in 3 weeks in advance. So that's hence the timing of the different presentations.
So, Mr. Best, you figured out a motion yet? Councilman Alcantra.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think what the city attorney had to say was that there's just not substantial changes from what's, I mean, we're going to wait 2 weeks and have the exact document other than a couple corrected dates in it. I don't know if we need to wait the 2 weeks, but I'm willing to wait if that's what the will of the body is. It just seems that seems we're delaying it for 2 weeks, and we got another payment coming up April 1st. That's going to be the substantial part of it. I don't know if we need to, none of the dollar figures and none of the language that I see is really going to change in here, other than correcting a couple dates.
So what's the, Councilman Best?
And I hear, you know, a little apprehension, you know, it's like, but for what good? It's like, if we are not showing ourselves of being willing to do things the right way, we've already gone through this for 2 years, talking about how our contracts have been, for lack of a better term, just kind of getting through, you know, and here we are again behind the 8 ball due to a little bit of time constraint, and everybody's just shirking their shoulders and just wanting to just get through it just because we don't want to be a little bit of inconvenience. I appreciate the manager bringing up that, you know, we don't want to harm the nonprofit that is doing the business of the city. We don't want to harm them and make it to where it's a burden. I have no problem with this city manager, you know, paying what is owed to them. But on the other hand, I am reluctant to just kick the can down the road with our contracts that we have shown that we've had issues in the past, and I just don't want to get ourselves in that same pattern again. So I will move to postpone to the next meeting.
Second.
Okay, Councilman Cooper?
Well, I oppose that for the reason that the attorney has gone through did the VIC contract and has looked at this one and, and has verified that virtually everything is the same. And as a matter of fact, there's a little bit more in here that's more restrictive that we've had on that contract for these folks before. So I think that, personally, I think we should move forward. This is a good contract, and I don't think that we're kicking the can down the road.
Councilman Tudor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I just wanted to echo what Councilman Best was saying. You know, I was also involved with the some of these contract rewritings, and there were just a lot of things, and I think we need to make sure that we're doing everything in the light, that the public can see what's going on and is clearly understandable. But I also don't want to hurt the nonprofit, and so I do support Councilman Best's motion to move this next meeting, but if needed, I am okay with paying them what they're owed. Again, the intention's not renew this contract, but just to make sure that our attorney has a chance to go through it, so that way it's public, it's visible, and that we're being transparent. Thank you.
So you're amending the motion to include the manager and do the first payment?
Well, if it's necessary, I'm not sure how necessary it is. I know that the payment's due, and I don't want to hurt the nonprofit, but I also want to make sure that we don't just sign on the line of a contract that the attorney hasn't really gone through to look at. So what I'm trying to say is if this is going to be some sort of violation of something and the city is liable, I don't want to put us in that position.
Madam Attorney, did you want to state what your head is doing?
My head is doing, my head is saying yes, if since the nonprofit has given us services that there are reliance of payment on based on previous agreements, then we should make that payment to avoid liability.
So was that an amendment then?
Yeah, then I would be amending this just to see if.
To do the first payment?
Yeah.
To authorize the city manager to make that first payment?
Well, in actuality, when I was making my point, maybe I didn't state it in the motion itself, but when I was making the argument for the continuation, it was with the intent of making the payment.
But you didn't get that in the motion. That's what I'm saying.
I appreciate that.
Okay.
I thought I did.
So, Mr. Best, was that a second?
Second.
Okay. Okay. So, Madam Clerk, could you help us by reading back what we're voting on? No?
The amendment moved by Councilmember Tudor, seconded by Councilmember Best, I believe, is to go ahead and pay the museum what's owed to them.
The first
at this
payment.
point.
The
Yes,
first
but
payment.
I don't know what that is, but that's just the amendment.
We didn't get that at this end of the table, please.
Yeah. Turn your mic on and say that one more time. Thank you.
I said that we would move, Councilmember Tudor moved and Best seconded to go ahead and pay the nonprofit the first payment. That's the amendment
Which-
to the main motion that's on the floor. The amendment.
So right. Okay.
Okay.
Any more questions? We got this. Okay, so to vote on the amendment.
Ready?
Right. Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Okay. Councilmember Tudor.
Yes.
Councilmember Alcantra.
Yes.
Councilmember Best.
Yes.
Councilmember Cooper.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Anzalotti.
Yes.
Councilmember Moline.
Yes.
Mayor Carrington.
Yes.
Okay, unanimous on amendment.
Okay. So now we're going to vote to the main motion, which is to postpone it till the 26th of March for the attorney to bring it back at that time. Okay. Any other questions or comments from the council? All right. Madam Clerk, if you call the roll, please.
Deputy Mayor Anzalotti.
Yes.
Councilmember Moline.
Yes.
Mayor Carrington.
Yes.
Councilmember Tudor.
Yes.
Councilmember Alcantra.
Yes.
Councilmember Best.
Yes.
Councilmember Cooper.
No.
Okay, 6-1. Motion passes.
Okay. All right. So there's no unfinished business. New business is, okay, Where'd the paper go? My goodness. All right. Well, no, we moved D1D to authorize the city managers to sign a professional services contract for structural evaluation for the repair of the Palmer Public Library with Wolf Architecture, not to exceed 21,416. Maybe we should get the manager to report a little bit.
Yes.
There's two references in there. One is for Wolf and one is for an engineering firm. So maybe you could explain that.
Yes, I'll give you a quick overview, and then Mr. Hanson will come forward any details and questions you may have. So essentially, this is regarding our broken library. We are in full discussions with our insurance company. They want to pay for a little bit of fix. We think there needs to be a much bigger fix for the ultimate purpose on being able to recover our full damage of that library. So with that, we are looking at a structural engineer to examine, when that broke, how does this affect the rest of the library as opposed to the small portion. Also, too, please note, the insurance covers this investigation work for us. We are approving it, but that's part of the insurance for us to have full recovery, just like they paid for us to move the books and put them in storage, while they're paying for the temporary library facility, that sort of thing. So we're trying to make sure that we could take full advantage of our insurance coverage for this dreaded incident. And Brad is available to answer any comments or questions you guys have.
We probably should get this on the floor now that I think about it. Councilman Tudor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And this kind of just a point of clarification, just to kind of remind everyone.
Let's go ahead and get a motion and put it on the floor. I shouldn't have let us do that, so.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, move to second. Okay, now, Mr. Manager, do you want an expert to come up and talk to us?
Yes, I call forward Mr. Brad Hanson.
Now, Councilman Tudor, you had questions?
Thank you, Mr. Really just a point of clarification. If memory serves, we had voted to move forward with the destruction of the old library to move forward with the new building. But this is an insurance requirement that they want us to go through. I just wanted to clarify that. We were pretty blunt with that, but just wanted to make sure.
Exactly. So in order to get our full settlement, we got to determine exactly what the full extent of the damages were over there. And so this is another element of trying to figure out how far into that building we go with that current facility to be able to determine what needs to be repaired.
Councilman Cooper.
Thank you. And that was not, we did not pay for that at the very beginning when we had the evaluation of the whole building?
The initial PND contract was to determine whether or not it was structurally sound for anybody to enter the building to retrieve the books. So that was the first contract we had with PND. You can also note that, the majority of this money is to PND for the structural analysis. What type of new system of a roof would need to have to be installed, which is going to drive up our ultimate insurance settlement, will have to be installed. And if it's extensive, then we're going to have some type of architectural report that's presented to the insurance to be able to recover what the full cost of what the repairs would be.
Councilman Cooper?
Thank you. I guess it kind of forces me into a follow-up that if we do this structural evaluation for the repair and they come back and they say, yeah, it's available to be repaired, what does that mean for the insurance and for the rest of the stuff that we've already done, saying that we want to remove it and replace?
Yeah, so it can be repaired. I mean, there's no question it could be repaired, okay? The question is to what extent we have to get into the rest of the building to support the existing roof structure. You know, we're not going to be able just to put a glue lamp back up and attach the new roof structure to it. It's going to have to be attached internally somehow that not only supports the new structure, but also supports the old part of the building that wasn't damaged during the event. And so that's the whole purpose of this. And there's going to be other costs associated with trying to figure out what the ultimate settlement needs to be, because their settlement doesn't include things that happened post collapse, and that is the building was vacant in the middle of winter. And so, you know, we have water pipes that are froze. We have a sprinkler system that needs to be fully evaluated. We have the hydronic system needs to be fully evaluated. So all those things, they're not accounting for in their initial settlement, okay? And so we have to get to a point where we can justify our request for X number of dollars. That's what they're looking for.
One more, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, follow up.
So does that, so the issues that you just brought up, freezing pipes, potential electric, that kind of stuff, that is not part of this, or is it part of it?
No.
So does that mean that there's a potential for us to come back in and you're going to ask for more money for us to reevaluate that? Is the insurance company going to be asking for that as well?
That's a function of the purchasing code. We only have a $15,000 limit on what we can spend. And so every penny we spend over 15,000 has to have legislation that comes forth to you to get authorization. What we're trying to do initially with the structural evaluation is to determine how far into that building we need to go. Okay, if we have to go extensively into it, then there may be a need for other type of evaluations, especially the electrical, because once you reach a certain threshold on fixing what you have, you're going to have to upgrade the whole system to current code. We're going to have to update the current code for the new roof regardless. And also, once we touch the old roof, a portion of that's going to have to be upgraded, which means new snow loads, new seismic loads, all the things that go into new structural code of 2021 as opposed to the 79 code, which was when it was built.
All right, thank you.
Any other? Councilwoman Moline.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is a little confusing to me in this process, because it seems as though some of the stuff should have taken place a while ago before the council had made the determination that it did. So I'm hoping that maybe you can explain what clause within the insurance policy that dictates that there are these needed assessments, because to me, it's kind of cut and dry. You have your limit, you have your limit, and whether it was replacement cost value or whatever, I understand that there's a little bit of flex there on the percentage, but you have your limit, and essentially we're being asked to total it. Is that what, total the building, or?
No, the way
This
our
is really
ins-
confusing
yeah,
to me.
the way our insurance policy works is that, they take our building, they determine what was damaged, the square footage, some of the elements that were damaged, and then they depreciate it to a certain extent.
So it's an
and-
actual cash value.
Right, and then they
is
send
what
us,
it was. Okay.
and then they send us initial insurance settlement. However, that's not the way our policy reads. Our policy reads is that we get the same product back. And so in order to justify the same product back, we have to go through the exercise of figuring out exactly what it would cost to be able to.
Got it. The indemnification, okay, thank you.
Any other questions from council? Okay. Are we ready to vote on this then? Okay. Madam Clerk, if you could call the roll, please.
Councilmember Best.
Yes.
Councilmember Tudor.
Yes.
Mayor Carrington.
Yes.
Councilmember Moline.
Yes.
Councilmember Alcantara.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Anzalotti. Councilmember Cooper.
Yes.
Unanimous.
All right. So we took care of new business. Record of items placed on the table. Madam Clerk?
Mobile crisis team documents.
Memo.
Oh, and a memo from Councilmember Alcantara, sorry.
Okay. All right. Next is audience participation, round 2. And I think everybody heard me the first time on all the verbiage, so we will open audience participation. Please remember to sign in if you haven't already and start with your name. Think so, yeah, definitely pull it closer.
Thank you again. My name is Jackie Goforth. What I was speaking about is the cases that were brought up in the attorney's presentation last week, or 2 weeks ago, had nothing to do with the Miller-Ginsburg test and the violation of obscenity. One of them, in fact, was a homeless person who was escorted off of a library 20 years ago in New Jersey. And she was using that as a basis for, we couldn't remove these books or take them away because they're obscene. Now, and the other thing I want to talk to you about is Chief Justice Warren Burger in the 1973 decision, he was the author of the opinion, wrote that it's not constitutionally sound to read the First Amendment as requiring that the people of Maine or Mississippi accept public depiction of conduct found tolerable in Las Vegas or New York City. And that is exactly what he meant for community standards. That's in the decision. It's the community where the book resides. Now, I speak not to you. I don't speak to the attorney. I don't speak to the librarians anymore. I don't speak to the educators because they all have the same story and they all have the same words and they all use the same words and they all get all of their talking points from the American Library Association. I'm speaking to the people of this valley. They need to know that when Devin Hilkenberg, a librarian in Fairbanks who was speaking on behalf of the American Library Association, said that they need to sexualize children from the ages of 12 years and up, that's not her call. That's a parent's right. She also said that to get to conservative families, the sexual education books were too noticeable. They couldn't pass those past the parents. So they needed to give them books that had it hidden within the covers. And what I'm showing you and what we've been telling you is what they mean by hidden within the covers. This valley and the people in this valley will not tolerate normalizing pedophilia. They won't tolerate it. In fact, if you haven't noticed, last Friday at Diamond High School in Anchorage, they don't even tolerate it in Anchorage. They escorted a teacher named Fletcher off the premises by security, and he's on administrative leave because he had a OnlyFans account that was highly sexually explicit, and he was wearing a skirt that showed off of his parts so that he could show them off to all the children. It made him uncomfortable. Even Anchorage doesn't like what's happening. These books have obscene passages in them. That's the reason I do the complaints I do. That's the reason I speak the way I do. And it's because the people of this valley are starting to notice. They don't want their children sexualized by someone other than them. It's their right. It's a parent's right how to raise their child. Nobody gets to take that away from them. Nobody. And the last thing I want to talk about is the article from the Anchorage Daily News called it, I'm done already.
Yes, that's your time.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else for audience participation?
My name is Linda Spohn. If you were to make a simple, common sense, ethical resolution to remove harmful material from the local library and schools, that shows your concern for minors. You will have the support of the valley rally behind you, and the people will support you. If you do nothing, you will lose all respect that you didn't protect minors or the community. Even I don't want to go to the library and run into that stuff. If you can support the Arctic Winter Games, why not support families and minors that live here permanently? Enrich the community with healthy libraries and schools. We aren't trying to be negative, but these are our concerns. Look at the outcome on Super Tuesday in Alaska. You guys would have more support if you take this and go with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for audience participation?
Hello, my name is Karen Lewis. I've been looking into the language in the Miller-Ginsburg test, and I found this interesting, like a light bulb went on. Justice Brennan said, sex and obscenity are not synonymous. Obscene material is material that deals with sex in a manner appealing to prurient interest. the portrayal of sex, for example, in art, literature, and scientific works, is not itself sufficient reason to deny material the constitutional protection of freedom of speech and press. It is therefore vital that the standards for judging obscenity safeguard the protection of freedom of speech and press for material that does not treat sex in a manner appealing to prurient interest. So, I connected this with the scenes in these books. Before, the the scientific and the artistic and the other specifications in the third prong are not connected to the whole of the book. They are connected to the obscene part of it. So, is that, well, I guess we can't do this, but it dawned on me that that's what's going on, because in my head, it was, okay, this is the obscene stuff, and then the rest of the stuff, which is probably the majority, if there's any, scientific or artistic or value in that, then you can keep it, which just drove me nuts, because the obscenity, and even if it's just a small portion, shouldn't be in there. I mean, it's like they're wrecking the children's minds. They're stealing the innocence of our children. It's making them think that what God created beautiful, the procreative sex act between, husband and wife and kids and all that stuff you get, it's a beautiful thing. But what these writers, what these publishers and writers have done is, what they've written within these pages is so obscene. I mean, I can't even believe it. It's in there. And then our children have access to it. So this gives me hope, because I was like, well, the whole of the whole thing, you have to look at the whole thing. And then, we've been challenging these books. And these guys aren't going on the specifications of the third prong. They're going on, all the people up there in their library committees, they're saying, oh, but, how about the people, they're going on this emotion. And they're saying, no, we're just leaving the books where they are because of this. And, oh, it's just so sad. Emotion's not one of them. Emotion's not one of the things that's specified in the third prong. So it gives me hope that we actually can challenge these books and get them out of there, because it has happened. There are lawsuits that they have removed these books. Maybe legislation can do it too, but I have hope. We will get them out.
That's your time. Is there anyone else for audience participation?
Mary Ravetta. Good evening, Mayor, Steve, and council and staff. I'm here to support the women here, the men and women here that are here for the books as well. I have a background in engineering. I designed antennas on aircraft, so I went through a whole career of that. But while I was able to do that, my company paid for a degree in psychology, and I was able to go through a whole psychology and counsel people. And the sexual brokenness was an area that I was able to study and to work on my own issues. And so I know this area. And that's why I'm here to support the people here that are coming forth to talk about this issue. There is a book, Out of the Shadows, that talks about the mental cycle. So there's a mental cycle, and then it hooks into a behavioral cycle. And when you start the cycle of mental addiction, we're talking about addiction, it creates a physical, acting it out cycle. When children aren't able to deal with their feelings, and there's a brokenness in there, and they're opened up, their innocence is opened up to an area that they're not ready for, there becomes a wound there. They're wounded. And then that wound ends up being something they end up acting out. And it does wreck their life. I've been in meetings where I've seen every sort of woundedness in people where there's all different levels, but it just ruins their relationships, it ruins their lives, their productivity. So it's to our advantage to not have the kids between 14 and 17 able to access these books, because we're really just feeding this issue and creating bigger problems for us down the road. And I wanted to basically say that you got a good slice, a sample of many people here that share different aspects of this issue. And I want to put an agreement into everything that everybody else was saying, that we as a community do not want to pay and contribute financially to wounding and harming and keeping children addicted. So that's what I'm up here to do. And what I want from you guys is to see some effort towards making changes. I know it's very challenging, but I would like to see the efforts that are made to make those changes. Thank you.
Thank you. That's your time. Is there anyone else for audience participation?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mike Malevsky, I'm back again. This time to draw your attention to what usually at this time of year is the premier sporting event. Can we say the Iditarod? I was introduced to the Iditarod in 1978 with a photo finish that Dick Mackey won at that time, collapsing into his sled and watching Rick Swenson go by in the moment of silence as people had to determine who had really won. So we fast forward today and we have Dallas Seavey out of Virginia originally, lived in Alaska in a variety of places in the Kenai area, but is now a resident of Talkeetna. So our own borough has won the Iditarod for the 6th time. They did that this evening. If you weren't following that, very interesting, but not without controversy. As you follow that, you understood in the first 24 hours, he did the thing that many of us would like to avoid. You run into a moose. In his case, the rules say you will take care of that moose by gutting it, and he did. And if you follow any of the interviews, we tend to like to listen to interviews that he gave. He pointed out that he was pretty much in shock at the time that he experienced this. Moose comes out of nowhere, dog is damaged, he shoots the moose, he knows he has to do something, he's probably operating on a little sleep already. What would any of us do? Well, he persisted and he didn't quite get the gutting correct, but he accepted the 2-hour penalty, then he made that up and went on to win the Iditarod. So a lot to unpack from all of that, as well as the continuing concern about sled dogs and their care. You lose a dog on this race, as you know, you're pulled. You're out of the race. A dog dies. This is a fairly recent rule, but I think it's an appropriate one. So just draw the attention to that other sporting event. Thank you.
Is there anyone else for audience participation? No? Okay. We'll close audience participation. And get the agenda back. Next is Committee of the Whole. So we're looking for a motion to go into the Committee of the Whole. And Mr. Alcantara.
Mr. Mayor, before I make that motion, or maybe you're going to tell me after I do, we had items placed on the table, and obviously the public isn't aware what that is. Yourself and the council members are. So if I could read this short memorandum into the record, since it's not part of the 451-page assembly packet that was distributed earlier. Can I do that now, or do I have to go on the committee of whole? And I'm likely going to be excused, and I want these folks to know why.
Okay, well, I think it's just simply a matter of stating that you have a conflict and why.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and, for the record, I want to put this into the record. This is my memorandum to Steve Carrington, Mayor, City of Palmer, Palmer City Council members, from myself, City Council member John Alcantara,
So you're
candidate for City Manager of Palmer.
So you're saying you have a conflict of interest?
Yes, conflict of interest under Palmer Municipal Code 2.06.130, dated today. The purpose of this correspondence is to declare a conflict of interest and to be excused from voting on matters relating to the interview process for the City Manager of Palmer. As you are aware, I was an applicant for City Manager 4 years ago, was determined on a close vote. I'll read this into the record, please, and then that way I can make the motion to be excused.
It's just a matter of stating you have a conflict.
No, but
there's a rule.
they don't have access to the same document. So unless you want to make, I want
We
people
can
to
make
have
copies,
access to it.
and I would even clarify what you've already stated.
Okay.
So you're saying you've got a conflict of interest because you've applied for
I have a
the,
conflict of interest. I applied for the city manager position in the city of Palmer. I go in the process with my eyes wide open because under Palmer Municipal Code 204.047, if you're a sitting elected official, you have to have 5 votes out
okay,
of
that's,
6, which
that
is
is not the matter we're looking at. We're looking at reviewing applications. You're saying you have a conflict because you've applied. Okay.
correct.
And as the mayor, then I would rule that yes,
Okay.
you do have a conflict.
And why would I not,
say-
why would I not read this into the record so people
Because
know
this
and
is just a
understand?
matter of simple Robert's rules where there's no debate on this, there's no discussion, it's just a simple,
Okay.
so. And I would agree that you do have a conflict for this vote and actually for anything to do with this process. So, and now the council can override me on that if the council wishes. So I think, okay. So do we have, that's, okay, so that's it. So,
I move we go into committee of the whole.
all right, right.
Second?
So we're going into committee of the whole, and I think we'll ask our HR director to come and participate with us on that. But we'll excuse Councilman Alcantara from the table at this time.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Okay. So we should vote on, we're going into committee of whole to discuss the manager recruitment and the applicants. So we need to vote, right? Yeah, I believe I did that motion. Okay. Jim, okay, okay. All right, so we still need to vote on this. Yes. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll to vote to go into committee of the whole?
Councilmember Tudor.
Yes.
Councilmember Best.
Councilmember Best, we're voting to go into a committee of the whole.
Yes or no?
Yes.
Councilman Best?
Best.
Yes.
Okay.
Cooper.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Anzalotti.
Yes.
Councilmember Moline.
Yes.
Mayor Carrington.
Yes. All right. Should we take a brief break, or are we ready to? We'll take a brief break. Okay. Sorry. I was trying to,
Yeah.
it's a simple process, really.
No,
It is.
It is, and you stated it correctly, just through the entire process, so we're clear that that's the entire process, not just.
Right. Snack, you want a snack? All right, we're taking a break. We are taking a break. No, that was just because I'm hot and I want to go dunk my head. Well, I'll just wash my face and keep going over my head. It's a simple process. Well, and it's not debatable, that's part of the thing.
No.
The conflict of interest, it's not debatable.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is why I mentioned in my report, so we knew about it, so you could think
And
about
also, I feel like it's weird to say.
it. Oh, yeah. Oh,
It's
that's-
not appropriate.
No, it's not
Point of order.
appropriate.
I'm like yelling, point of order. I'm not supposed to do it. Yeah, I was like, point of order. Yeah, and I think, as long as he's clear with what, hopefully he is.
I'm sure he's very frustrated.
Oh, and that's, you stepped.
That's okay.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, hallelujah.
I'm okay, thanks. Okay, yeah. The meeting that I wasn't here for, I listened to it.
Did you?
Or I watched it, yeah.
So what I we need to talk to the person
To come up with something before the meeting.
Right, right. And how it was going to be turned. I'm not convinced that doesn't have anything to do with this. So we were bad cases. So I just, this is what
I have to go to work tomorrow, which means I need to be on at midnight.
So,
True, true.
on sorry.
No, that's okay.
Yeah, that should work. Like, yeah, like, just, is there, yeah. Yes.
I know your schedule's a lot more.
Yeah, it's kind of
like
crazy.
60 hours. So, but if that's okay, then we'll also.
Yeah, I would love to be part of that.
It's really that way of distinguishing what is like someone of those age groups are. And I'm so sorry.
No, it's not just you. So
Now we've lost the
Sarah wants to
HR
meet up with me to go over just like the possibilities for, to send to the legislature, or to send to
This feels
the-
weird. Technically, this is a public meeting.
I know, we're the only ones here though.
They could tell, well, we took care of council comments earlier,
Yes.
because that way he had a chance to do it and say his own comments.
And so you're thinking of something more. Okay, okay,
All right.
okay. Gotcha.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, okay. All right. Break's over. Welcome, Kimberly.
Are you back?
Yeah, I hit the gavel.
I didn't hear it. Okay, go ahead.
I gotta hit it harder, huh?
No, I didn't hear it.
So, I presume all the council has thoroughly read the 451 pages.
I apologize for that. I'm just going to throw that out there now.
She's the one that put the 100 pages in at the beginning, which we won't talk about until next meeting. But then also the end, so. So we have 7 applicants.
Correct.
Do you,
Steve?
yes,
I apologize. Do we need our attorney here?
where'd she go?
Well, I don't know, but I'm just saying.
Yeah,
Okay, okay.
I mean, I don't
Well,
I don't know of any reason at this moment.
Okay.
Because we're not,
Just
this is a
asking.
public meeting, so.
Okay.
So, Kimberly, HR Director, do you want to maybe give us a brief description
Absolutely.
to summarize 300 pages or whatever it is?
300 pages of love nest. So the job posting, just to, in full disclosure, the job posting required all the candidates to provide a written resume, a cover letter, answer the supplemental questions, and this was the kicker, the last one, They were supposed to provide writing samples not to exceed 6 pages. So obviously, that got lost in translation for some of them, hence your big packet. Out of the individuals that you have before you, you have several with city manager experience and several with Alaska experience. All candidates, save one, have a higher level degree, either a master's in public administration, a master's in regional and urban planning, or something, a master's in business. 2 of the candidates have no city manager type experience, though they do have upper level executive experience. And that's going to be Sydney Miller, who is the current HR director for the city of Wasilla, as well as Councilman Alcantara. Both meet that qualification for the position based on that experience that they do have, although Mr. Miller does have a master's in public administration. Based on the candidates that you have, they're all qualified. You have the option to go through and interview all candidates, which would be all 7, or you have the option to go through and find preferred qualifications for those candidates to whittle down that list, so to speak. Now, before the council meeting started, I was finishing up a search that I do as a part of my background check for our candidates. And I did come across an article that was dated March 4th, so just last week, that Patrick Marsh, who's one of our applicants, has just accepted a job for the city of California, California City, California. He's not yet advised us that he does not want to be considered for this position, but he started there on Monday.
He's starting there this Monday?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So at this point, we would proceed, depending on the criteria that you have, we would proceed and offer him an interview if you so chose to. And then at that time, he would have the opportunity to decline, or he may be interested in pursuing the opportunity here at Palmer. So at this point, what council should determine is based on the applications. Do you want to interview all the candidates? Or do you want to reduce that interview list based on criteria such as city manager experience?
Councilman Cooper.
I just have a question on have you found out, because we haven't gone out and done any research, have you found out anything derogatory about any of these candidates, such as arrest records or?
So all the candidates were emailed an authorization. We do national background checks through a company called ClearCheck. All candidates received an email, were required to authorize the background check, and the background checks have come back on everybody save one candidate who has not opened the email that they received, and that was Councilman Alcantara. Aside from that, I did do a brief summary search on all candidates, and one of the candidates did have a legal action based against the city he was employed with. He dropped that legal action, but there was some suit that he filed against the city, and that would be applicant Marsh.
Yes, Councilwoman Moline.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So in their credentialing or in their cover letters, or basically their written statement, some of them have disclosed, that, and Marsh particularly disclosed that. While his resume is really, his resume and his credentials are pretty impressive, I do think that that kind of whittles down kind of the inventory of what we're looking at if he has already applied. I know that we can interview him still, but I mean, if he's already done it, I mean, are we making decisions tonight, or are we just having open conversations about this?
I am hoping that we can decide who to interview.
Sure, okay. In my opinion, I would rather set Marsh aside and not interview him, just because of the fact that he's already accepted a position, and I think that that might be a waste of time.
I would recommend giving him the opportunity to decline the interview, because he would be based on one of our qualified applicants.
Okay. Councilman Tudor.
Thank you. Just to clarify, are these Zoom interviews, or we're not flying people up for?
No, we're not flying anybody up. We do have several that are local applicants, Hickle, Stinnett, are both here in the local area. Zimmerman is in Pennsylvania, Robertson is in Delaware, so those would be Zoom interviews.
Okay, thank you.
Unless they chose to fly up on their own.
Yeah, okay.
Councilman Cooper.
Thank you. If we decide to whittle it down to pick a number, 3 or 4, and in this particular case, Patrick Marsh is not in there, so we just inform whoever is not on the interview process that, I'm sorry, we reviewed your application and, we're not going to interview you. I mean, we don't have to wait for him to come back and say, oh yeah, I want to be interviewed, right?
No, if you're making a decision on who to interview based on criteria, no, we would just contact that individual and say, we're not interviewing, thank you for your application. But we wouldn't be able to just say, Mr. Marsh, we're not going to go forward with you without having some justification to do so. If our justification is we're going to interview individuals with a city manager experience, then we would need to interview him or have another criterion which excludes him.
So, Mr. Mayor, if I may, so in this particular case, we've already you have done research on this gentleman, found out that 1, he's had an incident with the city, and isn't it 2, just recently, he just got some other charge against him or an arrest against this guy, or?
The other charge took place before his new position. So it was not long after the item he disclosed, or not long before the item he disclosed in his cover letter.
So he has 2 incidents, if you will, and a potential job offer.
Correct.
So Councilwoman Moline.
Sorry, I left my microphone on, but I am going to capitalize off the moment. So.
I see.
Seize the day.
So, okay, so what I heard you say, and I'm sorry, I have to regurgitate this because I know that you have your criteria. What I'm hearing you say is that if we are basing our selections off of the fact of the municipal experience level, then we would have to offer him an opportunity to interview because he has not conveyed to us that he's accepted this other position, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Unless we came up with multiple criteria.
Unless we come up with multiple criteria. Okay, which really technically we could do because we could do and or.
I was thinking and Alaska experience.
Yes, you could do that, and that would eliminate everybody other than Zimmerman, Hickle, Stinnett, and Robertson.
Okay, I'm just.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, I'm not,
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Best, go ahead.
Thank you. So I'm a little perplexed here. I get it that we have set the criteria for what we are looking for as a 30,000-foot level, and then we have asked for them to present. Now, as a council, we get to look at the whole totality of what has been presented to us on that individual. And this is a feel process. This is really about, it didn't really seem to match what I'm looking for as an individual of who I'm willing to vote for. I'm not willing to apply a criteria to it. It is the totality of this, and I'm not wanting to say that I'm not making a decision on this individual because they might have something, that they might have had something, in their past. I'm just saying that the weight of this, what has been given to us as an individual, doesn't feel right for Palmer. And I don't look to clarify it, other than just that.
Yeah.
That is me as a council person, my feeling. And so my question is I see the attorney kind of cringing but this is.
HR too.
But this has been, I mean, we all go through this within, something doesn't, it didn't speak to me in a manner that would represent Palmer. It doesn't, some of the presentations that they've done, some of the writings, it just, doesn't match with what we're going for. So I'm a little perplexed that we would have to then cascade this you know, well, it's Alaskan, it's not necessarily Alaskan experience, we're not having Alaskan experience. We went with a manager before that didn't have municipal experience that had worked for Kellogg's.
I guess
And it
I
worked
would-
very well, so it.
I would,
that
I
was
would
the-
argue that those are the kind of subjective things that we would do with finalists that we interview. But
So you're saying.
What does
that
HR say?
We have to have a criteria of how we're going to weed out everybody that we interview. So we either interview all of them or none of them.
no. No, she already mentioned if you said we're gonna do city manager experience, that whittles it down to like 5, I believe.
You always want to have
That have worked
business
as a city
justification
manager.
to protect the city and liability. So having something that is relative to the position, listed in the background, whether the qualifications for the position, or even a necessity such as living in Alaska, which is not an easy thing to do, is justifiable reason to make a selection of candidate. And with all due respect, and please, with all due respect, saying that I just don't feel it really opens the city up for a whole lot of liability. You have to go through the process and base it on something tangible.
We're basically saying some of them are more qualified than others.
Correct.
So, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So with the interview process, reasonable expectation as to when our process, I guess is what I should say. How many days, once you've issued a request to interview, how many days do you allow for them to come back before we withdraw that? Or, I mean, there has to be a time frame, right, as to when they respond?
So based on the current schedule that was approved by council, we're looking at interviews on April 2nd. So what I would do if the council went through and made a decision tonight is reach out to those candidates. Typically, I give candidates 2 phone calls and 1 email with, please contact me by such and such date. If I don't hear from them within that time, then I mark them as voluntarily disqualified or voluntary withdrawal and they come off the list. So about 4 days.
So, yeah, so I mean, that's not unreasonable. I mean, we just hired somebody and it took us like 5 weeks to go through the process, but that's our problem.
Councilman Cooper.
Thank you. I guess, you know, if we're whittling it down, I would personally, I have 4 in mind that I would like to interview. If we leaving out the 3, my 3 are leaving out Alcantara, Miller, and Marsh. Yes, Marsh is qualified as a city manager, but I'm not happy with having someone who's been released from a job for, you know, whatever his reasons are, and you know what his other reason is. I'm not happy with, you know, kind of going along with Mr. Best. I'm not happy with having someone who has had official actions in the past based on his job or something that's related to that. So I would personally eliminate those 3 and then go and interview the remaining 4.
And I understand that. I guess I would argue that we offer the interview off, you know, and if they interview, they get a chance to explain. But it would be have to be a really good explanation to get.
Is that necessarily a criteria then that wouldn't get us in trouble if we said because you were released from your previous position and you disclose that we feel that you're not qualified, or would that get us in trouble?
So my experience is that having a previous arrest, there was no conviction, having a previous arrest could be considered discriminatory reason for not selecting somebody for an interview. And it also has other disparate factor in situations. But I'll let Sarah speak if she's got anything different.
No, I would agree with that. So I just want to clarify, at this stage, you can't, I would suggest not eliminating any individual based on an individual reason. You can eliminate a group of individuals based on a criteria base, you know, and then the rest of the discussion needs to be as you narrow down the finalists for once you've interviewed them, and then you would be doing that. Particularly since we're also in community of the whole, we're not in executive session right now. So we definitely don't want to utilize and target or say anything derogatory towards a single individual.
Sure, sure. So-
Councilwoman Malik?
Thank you. Well, I thought we were in committee of the whole. I thought
That's
we were
true.
free to kind of just say what we needed to say.
Well, I do want to clarify that, but not like, we don't want to
Not-
hire you
not- I
for
meant
such and
we're
such
free to
reason.
Say.
Still-
I meant like free to converse,
Mind
but.
your manners a little bit, yeah.
So if, so if it were like narrowing down the real guts and criteria of the people who have shown that they have a vision and have experience, which was one of the criterias that we had really expounded upon. I have 4 that I would consider, and that would include going ahead and requesting Mr. Marsh, and if he declines, then that's probably the most likely scenario, because if he's accepted a position, then I can't imagine that he'd want to continue. So, but well, in my opinion, I think that based off of experience, which is the criteria, who I would look at for the experience would be Patrick Marsh, Colby Hickle, Kim Zimmerman.
And that's a man, by the way.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, yeah, I think I kind of deduced that, but thank you for reminding me. And then I also would take a look at Randy Robertson. That's just my opinion.
Councilman Tudor, you've been so quiet.
No, thanks. I actually had the same exact pile as
Do ya?
Councilwoman O'Mealy. Yeah, it's the same exact
Yeah.
one. And, yeah, so just want to throw my support behind that.
So I just have a comment.
Deputy Mayor.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Mr.
Well,
Mayor. Oh, so
sorry.
you can finish
Since-
yours off.
Since she doesn't talk, okay.
Yeah, this is directed at the attorney. So what you're saying is, we have this criteria that they have to have city manager experience. So you're telling me that, and I'll use an extreme, someone who's been arrested for embezzlement can still be interviewed because they have the criteria, they meet the criteria as a city manager.
I would argue in the process, yes, they could, but then when we get the background checks back, which would be a part of the interview process, then that would be a barrier potentially to us offering a job offer.
Have we not done that with this Patrick Marsh?
We have done a background check, and there was no convictions listed.
Deputy Mayor, I guess it's Anzalotti at the moment?
It is at the moment. Figure that out later.
Paperwork.
Bigger fish to fry right now.
Yeah.
Anyways, well, I had a similar list to Councilwoman Moline as well as Councilman Tudor, so I just wanted to say that if we went with those, I would not be opposed to that.
Was that 4 or 5?
It's 4.
4.
That's 4.
Could we hit the 4 again?
Sure.
These 3.
Patrick Marsh, Colby Hickle, Kim Zimmerman, Randy Robertson.
Councilwoman Moline, Sinette Stinnett also has city manager experience and has worked in,
I didn't see city manager experience, so I
At the
apologize if I
city
missed
of,
that.
Uniclete
And St. Mary's.
In St. Mary's
Oh,
Village, right.
okay, then we would want to interview
Okay.
her as well. I apologize, I missed that.
Okay. Councilman Cooper.
Yeah, and I'm speaking for my compatriot on the left here. We have the same 5 then.
Okay. Would that be comfortable enough? We can say we want to interview the ones that have prior city manager experience, those 5?
Absolutely. That's
Set it up for
justifiable
April 2nd.
business justification. So with council's go ahead, I'll schedule interviews with Kim Zimmerman, Colby Hinkle, Susan Stinnett, Patrick Marsh, and Randy Robertson.
Beautiful.
All right, we can't make a motion yet. We have to come out of the city committee of the
Oh,
whole.
do you
But
want a
are-
motion to come?
Are we
out?
done discussing at this point? Well, so we still looking at April 2nd, is that a Tuesday?
It is a Tuesday.
Okay. So that could be a test for these people that are on the East Coast, because it could be late for them.
It will be late for them unless
That's
they
not a bad
choose.
test.
You know, we've had people such as our great fire chief, no offense, Dwayne, our great fire chief, Chad Cadman, who was in Juneau, and we gave him the opportunity to Zoom, and he paid his own way to fly up. So that's always a possibility. So
Yeah.
we'll see what happens with these candidates.
Councilman Cooper?
Yes, sir, thank you. Just a question for you and or maybe the clerk or the attorney. I'm hoping we would do this in executive session.
I believe all the interviews we would offer to go into executive session, but as the rules go, they have the right to insist on it.
No,
Nope.
it's public.
Interviews
No.
are public, and then afterwards
Yeah.
is executive session.
The concern I have is if we interview Patrick Marsh and then we start talking about what the attorney said, we start asking about his personal life. Why were you fired? Why did you get arrested? You know, into his personal stuff. That becomes derogatory, and I think
Right.
that's an executive session meeting. And I think that all of these should be, because you might come up with something that they don't want to have out in the public. And if I remember in the past, way in the past, that all of our interviews have been in executive session.
I know what the clerk thinks, but what does the attorney think? Because I can hear the clerk.
You can hear the clerk.
She's
I
right
was
here.
more concerned with your discussions being private in executive session. Now, also with interviews, particularly for such a public role, you know, we don't want to open up liability that we unfairly appointed someone and there was favoritism of some. So it should be equitable questions across the whole so there'd be
Right.
similar, exact same questions for every candidate, right?
Yes, the
And-
questions have already been developed. They differ from last interview. So candidates that may have potentially gone through and watched the previous city manager interview, the questions will be different as well.
But we could
I have
do
a
the
question.
interviews and then have an executive session for discussion.
Correct.
That would be my preference.
Can I just ask a quick question?
Sure.
Are we able to submit a question to you that you could then review and deem whether it's an appropriate question for the interviewee?
Absolutely, I'm more than
Okay.
happy to do that.
Okay, because I do think some of us do have some questions that we think are valuable in the process, so.
And we could have a set of questions that she like emails them, gives them a chance to ponder and answer, and have some questions that they don't get
Yeah,
until they
that they
get in.
don't get ahead of time. Okay.
But they have to all be the same.
Correct.
Councilman Tudor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was going to kind of ask kind of a similar question, if we should have kind of canned questions that we know that we can ask this, and this, and then the other questions we can ask during executive session, just to kind of, so that way it's public, but we don't put ourselves in a bad spot.
Correct.
Well, we're talking about we can't interview them in executive session. We can have discussions.
Oh, I see what you're saying, okay.
But I'm saying
Yeah.
we could have the questions, you know,
Interview
in person, but they don't
questions
hear it
in-
until they get here.
Okay, yeah.
And what I was recommending is that if you have questions that are outside of what her canned questions that she's already got,
Yeah.
is that we submit them to her to review them to make sure that they're appropriate so that we don't get ourselves in trouble, but that, we include those in the interview process.
And I'm more than happy to email you the questions that I already have prepared, just so you don't submit something that we've already covered and you
Don't
can
have
come
to
up with
think
something
too hard
alternate.
about it.
I'm good. Oh, sorry.
Okay, are we done with the
Sorry, I'm
committee of the whole? Councilman Best.
Well, no, I'm gonna
ahead.
bring back my initial argument of what is the purpose of us having them submit the submittals, the writing examples, all that kind of stuff? If somebody had all the right credentials, but they submitted a piece of paper that says, "Am good, hire me," that's their writing example. I mean, how could we not kick that one to the side just on the basis that their writing example did not meet our desire of a council? So I have a problem with this aspect of the process. I get that we need to make sure that we're not being, that we're meeting our HR qualifications and making sure that we're not discriminatory and all that kind of stuff, but where's the rating on what they're presenting to us? So this, to me, is a false way of going about it. And I'm dismayed by this right now.
If I may respond, none of the candidates, save one, submitted the proper writing sample. So if we disqualify based on that, then we're just going to kick everybody. What my suggestion would be is, in addition to the evaluation that you conduct with the candidates for the interview, you also score their packet that they've submitted to you. And that way you're taking that into account as well to cover everything. We are considering this as part of the process. This isn't the end-all, be-all. This is just the get your foot in the door, and this still results in some type of scoring towards the consideration to move them forward.
My question to you then, could that not have been part of this process in our determining of who we interview?
Absolutely could. We would have lost all of our candidates because none of them submitted.
Well, no, if we then applied a scoring criteria on that, and then we get our list of, yeah, here's all these, everybody meets all the the managerial experience and all this kind of stuff, but then they also have the scoring criteria of what they submitted. And then we'd be able to take that into account of who we then interview. It would be front-loading.
I understand what you're saying.
And that's all I'm trying to point out here, is I think that we're kind of doing this backwards
Well,
because of fear of being sued for something.
Okay. If I can just say something, I mean, I get it, but from a perspective of going through the hiring process, it is, the laws are there as guardrails to protect the potential employee. We just have to play nice. We have criteria that you can like it, you can hate it, but it's there to protect us and them, but mostly to protect them. So, that's been my experience.
To me, I would like to come up with some question that says, hey, write 500 words on, what are the 5 big things you think Palmer should be doing in the next 5 years, or something, something that they have to write that's specific to Palmer.
And that would be a great thing for you to submit as a part of
Figure
your
out, okay.
question.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Councilman Cooper.
Yes, sir. I agree with that part. I don't agree with necessarily submitting questions to them in advance. It's kind of like, I enjoy the, hey, give me the 500 words, what do you think? But I don't want to give them an opportunity to have the next 10 questions or whatever with canned answers.
I could agree with that.
We wanted to organic
Come up with a couple of big questions
not
that they have to
previously done
research.
that.
And
Yeah.
In previous interviews that I've been here for city managers, well, for any position, we've never submitted the questions ahead of time.
Okay.
But we can review the questions just to make sure that they've been
Right.
reviewed.
Yeah, I'd say still funnel them through here so she can
Yeah,
make sure we're not completely crazy.
exactly.
We have more to discuss, or are we ready to?
We're on these 5, right?
I believe, yeah, we have to come up with a motion to, when we get out of committee of the whole, but, so when do you want the questions by?
I do not have a watch and I'm blind, excuse me.
So if I may offer, she already has questions, right?
Right.
So I would suggest that she submit those to us first, so we don't necessarily duplicate a
No, yeah,
question.
so-
That's what she said.
Yeah,
And
that would be the first step.
Yeah.
So I'll email you the questions that I have tomorrow, and if you can have your suggestions for questions back to me by March 26th,
Okay,
that would be appreciated.
okay. So do we have to vote to come out of committee of the whole, or we just declare it?
Mr. Mayor, move to move us out of the committee of the whole.
Second.
I'm just getting tired.
All right, is there any objection to coming out of committee of the whole? Okay, we're out of committee of the whole. Now, who's gonna say the motion, right?
Oh, we.
Yeah.
So, okay, so Mr. Mayor, I would like to make a motion to move to interview the following candidates for the city manager position.
For the ones that have city
Based-
manager experience?
Based on the fact that of the criteria that they all have city manager, or excuse me, municipal experience, city manager experience. Okay.
And you can give the list, yes.
Okay, great. That would be Susanna Stenay, excuse me, sorry, Patrick Marsh, Colby Hickle, Kim Zimmerman, and Randy Robertson. I'd like to ask for
Is that all
support.
five?
Yes.
Second, though?
Okay, so moved and seconded. Is there any clarification? Other than we understand you're gonna send us a bunch of questions for us to
Yes, I'll send you a bunch of questions.
keep us up at night. Okay. All right, Madam Clerk, can you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Tudor?
Yep.
Councilmember Best?
Yes.
Councilmember Cooper?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Anzalati?
Yes.
Councilmember Moline?
Yes.
Mayor Carrington?
Yes.
Unanimous.
So, I think we're done, right?
I think so.
Okay, we are adjourned at 8:45. As everything, a little painful, but you know.